What's your grief story? What is your grief story? Every single one of us has a grief story. We have a story that is still evolving. We have a grief story that's still evolving. And what is yours? When did your grief start? Did it start when you got the phone call? Did your grief start the moment that you got the diagnosis at the doctor's office? Did it start the moment that you got the knock at the door? Everyone's grief story has a start. I'm not talking about your story with your person. I'm talking about your grief story. And everybody's grief story, everybody's grief needs a witness. We all need a witness to help us with this grief, to help us understand this grief. And that, my friends, is why I created this thing called the story room, because you need a witness. You need a place to sit with other grievers so you can share your story. There is something that most grievers never get, not in their therapy, not in the advice that they get from others, not in the books that they read, but it is the witness, the true, honest witness that comes to them who listens to their grief story without comparing, without judgment, without correction, without trying to move the grief, without trying to ignore the grief. And that's the problem that a lot of us have. And today I want to talk about the story room and why it exists and why so many people are carrying pain that has never had a place to land. What happens when there's no witness for your grief? A witness, let me describe what a witness is. A witness could be your best friend. A witness could be your sister. A witness could be your mom. Your husband could be the witness of your grief. You could be the witness for your husband's grief. Your child can be the witness for your grief, or you can be the witness for your child's grief. But whoever the witness is, they listen to the story that you have to tell, your grief story, how it hurts, how it feels. You're allowed to cry in front of them. A true witness shows up with their heart first. A true witness listens to the story first. They don't try to correct it. They don't try to fix it. When your person dies, people come out of everywhere. When you get a divorce, people come out. When you have a breakup of a romantic relationship, people show up. Oh, girl, they bring food, they bring flowers. I'm so sorry. My heart is so broken for you. And then a few weeks later, they scatter. I want to say something even meaner than that, but hear me out. They go back to living their life. They have to. And now you enter the alternate universe. What is the alternate universe? The alternate universe is where you're walking alongside everybody who's living in the world. They're living in the real world, and you're in the alternate universe. And they have scattered, not because they don't care, but because they don't know what to do for you. The average person around you doesn't know what to do with ongoing grief. So you, the griever, learn something very fast. You learn to quiet it down. You learn to not talk about it, because the few times that you did talk about it, you got corrected out of it. He wouldn't want you to be that way. At least you have an angel in heaven now. I mean, all the crap that they tell you, right? I'm not mad at them. I'm mad that our hearts need something else and we get told this thing. That's the thing that we get told. So what inevitably happens is you start managing your own grief, but not only your own grief, you start managing their grief as well. You become the strong one around them. You're holding them together. And here's what no one explains to you. When grief has no witness, when you don't have a place to share your grief or lay your grief or talk about your grief, that damn grief gets louder. It gets louder inside of your brain, and it keeps replaying the story over and over again. It replays when you got the phone call, what was said on the other end of the call, what the person was saying, what Brittany was saying when she was screaming into the phone. It replays the hospital room where the doctor was and the nurse had that look on her face and you knew something was wrong. It replays the story in the hospital room when the doctor says, no, I'm not going to extend the medication. You replay the last words the person said to you over and over again. You replay the look on their face, not because you're broken, but because you have nowhere to lay this. It is unfinished business of an emotional nature. It is unfinished emotional expressed grief, and it seeks to tell the story so that you can complete the story. The nervous system does not process grief alone. One, because it doesn't know how to, because no one has ever showed you. In processing the relationship, this is not an opinion that I'm giving you here. It's actually neuroscience. When we process the emotions, the broken emotions, our story, it helps our story to complete itself. It helps our grief story to come full circle. When you speak a painful memory in the presence of someone else without them judging you, with them just listening to you, your brain begins to refile the experience in a different way. Your heart starts to understand what happened. The intellect of your brain starts to take in the grief. When we stay silent, when we stay silent, our brain keeps everything that we have experienced as a threat, and it keeps it in that threat mode. Almost like you're being attacked, you're being chased by a bear, run after by a bear. So the question is not, why am I always thinking about it? The question is, how come I've never had a place to talk about this? I have opened up a place that I call the story room because I feel like it's a much needed place for us to tell our story. It's not just a grief support place. It is a place where we're going to open and share the chaos. It's not just a place to get advice on how to do this thing. It is never going to be a place about me fixing you or you fixing anyone else. It's a place where we have witnesses, people who will witness your grief, people who will listen to your grief without interruption, without comparing their story to yours. And by all means, they are not going to start their sentence with, at least you have. There are no silver linings to this grief. Friends, you need to say the hard part out loud. You have to say the hard part out loud. The parts that you've been editing in public, it has to be said out loud. You got to stop swallowing it down. Every time you get around a family gathering, you're hardly saying his name. That's the part that is making your chest tight. That's the part that is making it so you can hardly breathe. You get to tell your grief story out loud. Something happens when you do this. When you tell the parts of your story out loud, your body starts to settle in. It settles down. Your breathing changes. The images that are running through your brain, those memories, they start to loosen. You get to take a little bit of charge of your grief. You're now in charge of it. Not because it didn't matter, but because it did matter. It really matters. Because it is finally seen. It finally feels safe. Most women I've worked with have told their stories hundreds of times. And sometimes I've heard the same part of the story over and over again. And sometimes that same part of the story changes. Why? Because parts of the story get forgotten until they are uncovered in the telling of the story. You forget that he walked in the door and slammed the door. You forget that part completely because you were on the floor crying. Some parts of the story have never been told because we've been rushed through, or people have corrected us, or they redirected us, and so we shut the hell up. The story room is where you come uninterrupted. It's not small. It's not medicine. It's not therapy. It's come where you bring that grief, where you could share that grief. And that's why this matters more than you think. It matters more than you think. So let me explain this to you, what happens when you get a chance to process your grief in front of others. When you do not process your grief in front of others, first of all, you're going to resist it. You push back against it. You react to it. You avoid it. And by all means, you pretend. But here in the story room, you're not resisting. You're not avoiding. You're going to be here long enough where your grief is going to stop turning into the suffering that it's been turning into now. Grief is not permanent. Grief pain is not permanent. Unprocessed grief pain will loop over and over again in your brain. That story will go over and over again in the brain. It will cause exhaustion. It will fuck with your focus. It will cause you to doom scroll. You'll be snapping at people. You'll feel disconnected. And then you'll start judging yourself. But here's the truth. Your body is holding what your mouth never got a chance to say. The story interrupts that pattern. It moves grief from internal chaos to spoken reality. And that spoken reality is when you feel the release. It changes forms. The grief will shift, not instantly, not magically, sometimes not even measurably. The intensity of the grief drops. The shame drops. The isolation drops because someone heard you and did not flinch. Why didn't they flinch? Because, girl, they have their own story. They have their own story to tell. The Grief Story Room is every Tuesday and Thursday. It is a room every Tuesday and Thursday. Why did I say that? It's on the second and the fourth Thursday. Oh, what am I saying? It's on the second and the fourth Thursday every month. The story room is for women who still replay the moments, who still feel like they have something to say, who still feel like they're moving too fast, who still feel like they have to be strong, who still had words she never got a chance to say, who still wonder why this hurts so much. This is not for someone who's looking for surfacey comfort. It's for anyone ready to process, not perform, but truly learn how to process this grief. You don't need to be falling apart to come. You can be having a good day and still show up. You could be newly grieving, or your grief could have happened 3 years ago. But here's the one thing that you need. You need a willingness to tell the truth. That's who's coming in the room. The women who have a willingness to tell the truth. Let's talk about why this is going to make a difference. Most spaces try to make the grief smaller, and we do the opposite. We give the grief room. I want to give it room and space to grow. I want to give it structure. So you're not overwhelmed by it. So everybody in there is holding your space. We're not analyzing it. And girl, we ain't giving you homework. Our homework is just so that you can feel heard. And I guide the room. There's nobody else in there guiding the room but me, unless I have a substitute. But there's nobody in there guiding the room but the instructor. I'm doing a little bit of teaching and I'm asking a question. A little bit of teaching, I'm asking a question. A little bit of teaching, I'm asking a question. Every week when you come in, there's a different subject on the table. What was it like getting the phone call? What was it like talking to the doctor? What was it like being in the hospital room? How did it feel to leave the hospital without them? We slow it down. We name the thing. We name the thing that's happening in your body. We separate the facts from the thoughts. We identify the grief lies that you're being told. And slowly but surely, the grief begins to shift. And this is why it works. This is why it works. It works because it's an emotionally processed the containment. Friends, I used to do something called Grief Study Hall. And I love Grief Study Hall, and it was every week. And I got advice to change things up from my marketing manager. So I changed things up. But the Grief Study Hall, I miss the Grief Study Hall. I miss it. I need it. I need to touch the pulse of the grief. I need to see where you guys are. The other thing is, I want you building a relationship with me. I want you to have safety with me in that room so you can know, like, and trust me. so you can meet others. Why? Guess what I'm building here? I'm not building a grief school. I'm building a community. We are building a community. We're building a community of women who come together with broken hearts to support one another on this strange, ever-ending, confusing, flipping journey. So let me say something direct. Time is not going to heal this grief. The only thing that time does is pass. Time passes. If time were to process your grief, girl, you'd be done already. If you continue to ignore this, it ain't going nowhere. The cost of not processing your grief is going to be prolonged suffering. It's going to cost you everything. It's going to cost you your happiness. It's going to cost you your joy. It's going to cost you isolation. It's going to cost you other relationships. You're going to feel like you're an island all to yourself. And when I tell you there's nothing wrong with you, there is nothing wrong with you. Your grief has just never had a place to land. So I want to invite you, if you are tired of holding this in, if you're tired of editing your pain to make others feel normal, if you're tired of being the strong one, come to the story room. Come to the story room if you're tired of being stuck, if you don't know how to move through this. This is the room where healing happens. Not because we're forcing positivity, not by pretending that it doesn't matter, but by telling the truth out loud. You can find all of the details in the link. Read about it, think about it, and come and sign up. It is every second and fourth Thursday of the month. If you don't come this one, come to the next one. Once you sign up, you'll be on the list and I will continue to invite you. If it sounds interesting, but you're not sure you want to come, stay on the list so you can make sure you're getting invited. If you're thinking right now, man, that sounds like something I really need, then listen to me. It's because your grief needs to be witnessed, and I'm giving you a place to have that grief witnessed. There's some rules when you come into the room. Number one rule, everybody has to turn their camera on. We have to have the camera on because I can't coach you without seeing you. So number one, you have to have your camera on. You do not have to talk. You can stay muted. Everyone is actually muted unless they're sharing. You're not allowed to therapize anyone. You're not allowed to give therapy. We are here to listen, to offer love, to offer hugs. We have absolute confidentiality. Whatever happens in that room stays in that room. There's no recording going on in that room. I'm not making a video clip. I set a very safe place, and it is imperative that I do that. Hey, friends, it's Sharon Brubaker. It's the Grief School, and we're talking about the story room, and I want to invite each and every one of you. Come to the story room. Come to a place where your grief can feel safe. All right, I'll see you inside the room. Bye.